Breaking this hour, New York Times reporting donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC that roughly $90 million in pledges are now frozen.
It's getting worse.
This president might not feel like it's time for him to hang it up, but everybody else around him feels like it's time for him to hang it up.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to my channel, Modern Renaissance Man. I am Ty Smith. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day, out of your evening, depending on what time you're watching this, to watch this content. Make sure you follow me on all the platforms you see above and below. Do not worry about the spelling that you see with Modern Renaissance Man on Rumble. It's supposed to be spelled like that. Hit this like button right here, right now. Well, how do I know if I even like it? I wish I can tell you guys that the thumbs up simply mean, hey, keep recommending Ty's content to me. Literally, that's what that means, okay? Also, don't forget and double check to make sure that you still are subscribed to the channel. Make sure your notifications are turned on. What I mean by that, if you go into your settings in your cell phone or whatever device you have, turn on the notifications for YouTube so that you get notified whenever I do post. According to YouTube, 60,000 people out of 419,000 only have theirs on. That's what they're telling me. So it's up to you guys to do that, all right? So, y'all, this is just dropping, and I don't even want to waste no time going deeper into it, but this is huge because money talks.
Breaking this hour, New York Times reporting donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC that roughly $90 million in pledges are now frozen if Biden remains at the top of the ticket. But this may only be the beginning. Reports claim a coordinated Democratic rebellion is set to unfold during a brutal 48-hour stretch for Biden. An 18th Democrat lawmaker just called for Biden's exit 90 minutes ago. Now we're learning that President Biden privately met with White House Minority Leader Jeffries after his solo press conference last night, where he made several embarrassing mistakes on the world stage. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Compagno, and joining me today, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, Cheryl Casoni, Fox News contributor and host of Tommy Lahren is Fearless on Outkick, Tommy Lahren, former RNC Deputy Communications Director and Vice President of COIN, Cassie Smedley, and Fox & Friends First co-host Todd Pyro. Now, first, let's go to White House correspondent Peter Doocy with more details on Biden's news conference. Peter.
Emily, we have proof President Biden's team tried to make last night's Q&A with the press as controlled an environment as possible because President Biden told us so.
I'll take your questions. I've been given a list of people to call on here. I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you about your, you mixed up Presidents Zelensky and Putin earlier today.
I love my staff, but they add things all the time. At the very end, I'm catching hell from my wife. Anyway.
And that actually contradicts recent speculation that the First Lady is the one pushing President Biden beyond his limits, despite limitations that he has admitted to. Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi have been back-channeling about how to manage Biden's position atop the ticket, per CNN. President Biden is also saying convention delegates can vote for whoever they want, but a non-Kamala Harris nominee would be starting a campaign from scratch. And he says he is only willing to leave the race on one condition.
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that. How accurate does anybody think the polls are these days? I can give you a series of polls where you have likely voters, me versus Trump, where I win all the time.
It could happen, though. Somebody could tell him that there are polls and that make it impossible for him to win. Before that news conference, the New York Times was reporting that longtime Biden confidants are trying to figure out how to tell him it is time to go. We don't know if anything he said or did last night changes the calculation. Emily.
Peter Ducey, thank you. Now, as we told you, the New York Times reports that donors are withholding $90 million if Biden remains on the ticket. We're also learning that 4 Democratic sources with knowledge tell CBS News that they expect dozens of Democratic lawmakers over the next 48 hours to issue statements calling for President Biden to step out of the race. The planning is coordinated, and some of the statements are pre-written, according to 2 sources. One of those well-placed sources predicted that the next 3 to 4 days will be, quote, brutal, and that it may become untenable by sometime next week for the president to continue in the race. And it appears that the most powerful names in the Democratic Party don't have Biden's back. CNN reports that former President Obama and Nancy Pelosi privately expressed concerns, but they're not sure what to do. Quote, more than a dozen members of Congress, operatives, and multiple people in touch with both Obama and Pelosi, many of whom say that the end for Biden's candidacy feels clear. And at this point, it's just a matter of how it plays out, even after Thursday night's news conference. And if those 2 feel otherwise, several leading Democrats say, they need to say that clearly as soon as possible before even more damage is done less than 4 months before the election. Tommy, what we are watching in sort of a seemingly slow motion, yet at the same time barreling down the tracks, seems to be an absolutely imploding candidacy with different vectors that it seems are all of a sudden defecting, from the media to potentially former President Obama, and perhaps none more potentially impactful than the $90 million from donors that is being used as ransom.
Yeah. How do you win as a Democrat without the media behind you, without Hollywood behind you, without big money donors behind you, without your own party behind you? That's a pretty steep hill to climb if you're anybody. This president might not feel like it's time for him to hang it up, but everybody else around him feels like it's time for him to hang it up. And this all feels very coordinated. None of this to me feels spur of the moment. I don't even think this was a matter of 2 weeks ago the decision was made. I have felt for a long time that this has been a coordinated and planned effort. I don't think they were ever going to go with a Joe Biden on the top of that ticket. I think they're very worried about a Vice President Kamala Harris because they need to win those Rust Belt states. And Joe Biden does much better in those states than Kamala Harris does. So I think the only reason it's taking this long is because they don't know what to do with a Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of that ticket. That's the only reason, in my view, that it has taken this long. And if last night was supposed to calm everyone's fears, it didn't do that. Yes, he did better than some people thought, but the bar was so low and he still messed up several times. And that's what everyone's talking about today. Some are talking about his mastery of foreign policy, but a lot more people are talking about the fact that he confused his own vice president with the former President Trump. You can't escape that. To me, the snowball is rolling down the hill and you can't reverse the snowball.
And at the end of the day, Cheryl, whose opinion matters most? Will the president indeed hang on far beyond all of these clamoring voices, or will he eventually have to succumb and try to salvage some dignity? What do you see here with that and with the voters and their response?
Well, you start to pull funding, and I think that could be a big sway right there. You're talking about this $90 million that's now frozen. I was looking at one comment from Future Forward. They would only say in this report that just came out within the last hour that they only expected contributors who had paused donations to return once the current uncertainty about the ticket was resolved. That's issue number one. Number two, who's got his ear? We know that it's Jill and it's Hunter. But his relationship reportedly with Chuck Schumer, there's a trust problem there with Chuck Schumer. So that voice, Hakeem Jeffries, hasn't been in power long enough and may not have, even though we know Hakeem Jeffries did speak with the president and sent out that letter, which we've seen said basic, but he didn't say step down or stay or whatever. It was more of like, well, I did voice my concerns to the president last night. At the end of the day, though, I keep going back to that $240 million that Kamala Harris has at her disposal if she is on that ticket. And I think this is why the donors are freezing the money, because they know that if you start to pull back, it's not just about Joe Biden anymore. This is down ballot, guys. This is about Congress. This is about the House, about the Senate. And if these Democratic senators and Congress people start to really be more concerned about their own positions, that's when the conversation changes and the pressure ramps up, I think.
I want to talk to you about the campaign, about Joe Biden's campaign at this moment, because everyone is sort of fulfilling their jobs, right? Then that can be a sort of myopic position. So obviously those working at the campaign, they will be the last ones to throw in the towel. Now we have the campaign chair saying, if we can get through these 2 weeks that we're living through, we can get through anything. She also used a few expletives about how tough it's been lately. But the question remains, do you think that these 2 weeks will indeed be make or break for this president? Or has almost 4 years of policy laid the table for a couple of straws that broke the camel's back that at this point are irreversible? Do you think he can succeed past these 2 weeks?
Well, I think to the point of Jen O'Malley Dillon, she is in survival mode with her team. She's trying to keep the troops together because if they start to break, then there really is no going back, right? But I think if it's a matter of surviving the 2 weeks, it should have been a matter of surviving the first 48 hours or the first 72 hours. Now that you're talking about 2 weeks, is it to pass that point of no return? Once they're playing the money card, I saw that's where I thought, oh boy, because that's really the strongest thing. If you don't have money, you're really done for. But I think everything that's going around the couch, one thing we talked about is if they felt so good about their alternative, Vice President Kamala Harris, they would have been out days ago. That's their problem, is that the backup option is also no good. They have no good options. So that's why they're stuttering and trying to figure out if they can salvage anything. So they either keep Joe Biden on the ballot and Donald Trump has a dumpster truck of quotes to use against him, or they replace him and they still have to spend weeks, if not months, sort of validating it to their voters who are very upset with their party right now.
Todd, I want to end with you on this, on exactly that point, which is that even before this madness, we have 6 states that all of a sudden were sort of flipped and became battleground, swing states, leaning toward Trump now. Even New York here is all of a sudden battleground. It's a state Biden won by 23 points. So it's against that landscape that is potentially untenable for Biden that all of a sudden now this faltering's happened and Kamala polls even less than he does. So what do you see happening with the voters?
Because of that shift you mentioned with the voters, logic and all the arguments articulated on this couch would dictate that Joe is gone because the voters don't like Joe. I would just caution on this. Did you see the reaction from some in the media last night? And have you heard the reaction to last night's press conference from Biden enablers in the White House? Those two entities thought that Joe did a good job. Rachel Maddow articulated that Joe Biden was amazing on foreign policy last night. So if that's what's in Joe Biden's ear, because we know he listens to his enablers in the White House, and we know he watches MSNBC. We also know that Joe has a tremendously outsized ego. I think Joe's staying in the race. I talked to Kellyanne Conway. I did radio for Jimmy yesterday. I was in for Jimmy Fallon. And I asked her about this. And she said, I've interviewed the chief of staff to Jill Biden. Let me tell you, they've been girding for this moment for 50 years. They are not going to give up the presidency that easily. So if I'm the Republicans next week, what do I do with all of this information? I drive home over 4 straight days that we, the GOP, are the party of unity and the Democrats are the party of absolute disarray. Why do I do that? Because the Republican National Convention is not just for the Fox viewer. It is for the nation. It is to convince that undecided voter who to pull the lever for. And if you can distance yourself from the disarray that Republicans had with all those speaker kerfuffles over the last couple of years and say, you thought that was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. Look at the Democrats right now. They are imploding. I think that helps not only Donald Trump, but every single one of those down ballot races. The next 4 days are crucial, meaning Monday through Thursday for Republicans.
And that money, that's a down ballot issue as well. That $90 million freeze that you mentioned, that's a down ballot story because that's a PAC. That is not just the Biden-Harris campaign. That is a PAC. That money is now stuck. People need it.
Yeah, so that seemed to be pretty significant. Y'all, they're talking like, 48 hours if this don't happen, blah, blah, blah. So remember the other night, I think President Biden announced that we have $200,000. It's never been done. Well, now, according to what they just said, that's $110 million. Did I just mess up and make a gaffe like he did? I have Bidenitis encephalopathy. Oh. Anyway, you know what I meant. I can correct myself. He couldn't. No, seriously. Last night in his conference, he mentioned that he has $200 million in donations from donors. Well, they freezing $90 million? Did I just do it again? I'm just messing with y'all. Yeah. He did mention that he had $200 million from the donors, blah, 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 blah. And now $90 million is being frozen if he don't step down. So it's like they're being serious about this. So what I'm thinking right now, according to what you guys just heard, all these negotiations are taking place. And most people are saying, and we already predicting that Biden's like, and his family, well, not Biden, he doesn't have the capacity to do this, but I'm pretty sure Hunter and even his wife Jill are all involved in this, and other family members. In order for us to step down, we need this much money for y'all to get us to step out, is what's going on behind closed doors, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But yeah, so this is not looking good for him. But at the same time, if the demented portion of his brain is telling him, I'm going to do it, I still want to do it. Look, people, look, folks, look here. Look, the idea. Y'all know, if you don't know, you just don't know. But if some of you don't know this, look, fundamentally, look, the idea. No, I'm serious. No, this is not a joke, folks. No, this is not a joke. Seriously, the idea. Anyway. No. But yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know this, folks. But to me, stuff is getting pretty serious now. Stuff is getting pretty serious. Wait till we start hearing rumors and whispers of Gavin Newsom came to the White House. The Obamas were at the White House. The Clintons were at the White House again. They're there again and again and again and again and again. If Biden is to be ousted, and you already got your suspicions that it's going to be Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, who else would y'all think would be? Let's get rid of Michelle Obama. Let's get rid of Hillary Clinton. Let's get rid of Gavin Newsom. Who would be like a sneak attack? I told y'all, not that it would happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. All of a sudden, Nikki Haley switched parties. No, I'm joking, but that would be crazy. Just what do y'all think? Just give me something really astronomical, way out of this world that you just see. That can't happen, Ty, but just throw it out there. Let's see what it is. Anyway, I just want to give you guys this quick update just to show you guys what's going on and what's been happening within the White House and the negotiations and such things like that's taking place. It seems like they really want him out of here. $90 million, that's a lot of money. Let me know about leaving in the comments below after this video. And don't forget to do this right here and you see that visual. Hit that subscribe button and double check to make sure that you still are subscribed to the channel. Last but not least, hit that thumbs up so this video can be circulated within a YouTube algorithm that my content can consistently be recommended to you. I'm Ty Smith, Modern Renaissance Man, hoping and praying that every last one of you have food, shelter, and clothing. And most of all, I pray every last one of you guys are in great health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. God bless you all through Jesus.